As is customary here, our tradition, this is the time for questions. I will plead that we maintain the tradition of, sticking to the content of this communique. And please, we should not attempt to make unnecessary linkages to issues that are not within the communique. Thank you very much. Just come up here if you have a question. Tell us your name and one question, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor. I'm Nancy. I anchor the Money Show on AIT. The MPC has voted to keep all the rates unchanged, but would you explain that at this time when the economy is in a recession, the Minister of Finance has called for a reduction of interest rates? Of course, during a recession, that could actually be there's economic sense to it, that when there's an economic decline, interest rates should reduce. Why did we get that call from the fiscal authorities? And as a monetary authority, you considered otherwise to retain all the rates. Then what has been the impact of the flexible foreign exchange regime since June? Because there seems, even you said it a moment ago, that the Naira has been depreciating. What has been the impact so far? The CBN is still a major player. When you go to the banks don't have sufficient FX to sell. For example, Zenith Bank does not accept Forex cash. And you don't even do FX. If I have a domiciliary account, I want to transfer to B party, I cannot do it. So how would you, with all these policies, how would it be crystallized that the economy will get out of a recession? Those are my questions.
You said Zenith does not do what?
Zenith does not accept cash. Zenith does not accept FX cash. If I have $200 now, I want to go and put it in my Dome account in Zenith, they do not accept cash. I think other banks do, but you don't have an interbank, I want to transfer to your Dome account, I can't do it. So it seems, how do you juxtapose that when you want people to have FX, but yet they cannot have FX? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Rubenga Kimbule from the Wall Street Journal. Mr. Governor, sir, given the shocks from the Brexit on the pound and euro and the electoral climate in the US, do you think, are you considering to diversify the CBN reserves to the yen or other currencies? If so, how much do you intend to take to these banks to take as reserves? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Hamis Mohammed. I write for Daily Trust newspapers. One of the policies that took place is the reverse of the sale of forex to the BDCs. Based on the conversation with some of them, they complain that still they are not assessing such forex as promised by CBN. And in the case of even assessing from some of the banks, they have to give them some tips on top of the rates from the CBN. And they complain, even some of the CBN officials are aware of all these things that is taking place. So what is the bank doing to maybe ensure that this forex is really moved toward these people, this sector, especially now that we are talking about resuming back to schools and other things? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor. My name is Osita Okere from AIT. From your speech, I just found out that the monetary policies, which of course has been going on for some time now, have not really been able to tackle the volatility in the FX market. Now, from your finding from the MPC meeting, could you tell us what exactly is the major problem that is making the FX market so volatile? Is it demand-based, or is it speculative pay, or is it as a result of speculators? Now, if you have that answer ready, could you share with us how you intend tackling this issue of volatility in the FX market?
Okay, let's have the last question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Governor. My name is Matanya Zokwe. I work for the Guardian newspapers. Mr. Governor, this fiscal and monetary policy retreat, we've been talking about it. You yourself said that it is overdue. Can you share with us the difficulties you have in really having this retreat? Because the fiscal authorities are here, monetary authorities are here. What's the challenge in having this retreat so to harmonize your measures? Thank you very much.
I'm David Malinga from Bloomberg. Two very short questions. Mr. Governor, should we take it that you have paused a hiking cycle, or you might be starting an easing cycle, because we've seen the forecast for a full year from the IMF and others saying that the economy might go into recession for the first time since 1991. And are there any extra measures you have in place to reduce the spread between the interbank FX market and the parallel market? Thank you so much.
Yeah, the second question, please.
Mr. Governor, are there any other measures you might want to put in place to reduce the spread between the FX interbank, the FX rate in the interbank market vis-a-vis the rate we see in the parallel market?
Mr. Governor, good afternoon, sir. My name is Onyema Chubara for Business Day newspaper. Your committee, like you said, suggested providing some tax incentives as some form of stimulus. Please, can you speak a little more around that? What do you mean by this?
That the fiscal authorities?
Okay, that the committee suggested providing some, that the fiscal authorities should consider providing some form of tax incentives as a form of stimulus. Would like to know what was actually looked at.
Okay, I think the governor can take these ones. Governor, sir.
Well, thank you very much. The first question from Nancy was that MPC voted to hold, whereas the Minister of Finance has called for reducing interest rate at this time. Why did MPC decide otherwise? Well, basically, like I said, both the monetary and fiscal authorities will all have the intention to achieve growth, but the direction through which you want to achieve it may differ for as long as you still achieve the growth. The issues here, just like we read in the communique, is that when you say reduce interest rates, there are two possibilities here. You are saying because you want that to spur credit to the private sector at lower rates. Or two, which I have heard the fiscal authority talk about, is that the fiscal authority needs to be able to borrow at lower rates to spend. Our own view at the MPC, because this was exhaustively discussed, and we said, well, in the past, there was a time when the MPC took a decision not only to reduce the policy rate, but indeed also reduce the cash reserve. These were intended to lower rates and encourage spending, particularly to the private sector. After we did that, the following meeting we also said, because we did not see the impact of credit to the private sector, that we needed to further reduce the CRR, because during that first session when we reduced the CRR from 30.5 to 25%, it provided an opportunity for about 1 trillion naira that was injected by the CBN into the economy or made available to the banks. Rather than loan these monies to the banks, or loan them to consumers, to agri manufacturing and SMEs, like we said at the communique, we found that those credits went to traders who used them in demanding for foreign exchange, which ended up putting pressure on the foreign exchange market. That was what happened. Subsequent to that, we said, fine, since this money wasn't deployed directly, that we were also reducing the CRR then from 25% to where it is right now, which is 22.5. That was going to provide close to about 350 to 500 billion naira through that avenue. But we said we were not going to allow the banks to really have the cash until they sent proposals to the Central Bank of Nigeria for primary agric projects, new manufacturing projects, and other kind of projects that will spur industrial capacity and manufacturing output. I must confess that the proposals we received were mainly for purposes of refinancing the liquidity of the banks. And we thought that was not what we wanted, and that's the reason we've been a little bit circumspect about releasing some of those liquidity. But we are looking at the books. There are indeed some very few of them that have submitted proposals for agric, that have submitted proposals for new manufacturing projects that we'll be considering in due course.